The chandelier above our corner table trembled with the air conditioner's sigh, and I felt the room lean in as if the crystals themselves wanted to hear him say it again. Your presence would make things awkward, Gavin said, voice pitched for the neighboring tables. His $3,000 suit flashed under the amber light. One arm draped across my daughter's shoulders, claiming and casual at once. Norah stared at her water glass. It's better if you don't come, Mom. There it was, clean, sharp, and entirely public. Shame rose under my collar like a fever. I pressed my palms flat on the linen. Stopped the trembling. Breathe. Don't beg. A server hovered, worried eyes flicking between us. I gave her the smallest nod. I'm fine. She vanished and the hush around us thickened until the room hummed with unasked questions. I understand, I said, each word steady as if I'd practiced them. I wish you both happiness. Gavin smiled with all his teeth. See, she gets it. My napkin folded into a white band in my hands. I set it down by the untouched glass, stood, and reached for my jacket. Enjoy your dinner. As I turned, Gavin's voice carried. See how easy that was. The oak-paneled room prickled with camera phones held in laps. I kept my back straight and walked for the door, willing my steps to be ordinary. Outside, spring air met the heat in my chest and made steam of it. The sidewalk smelled like rain and taxi brakes. I didn't make it to the curb before my knees softened. I leaned against the brick, pressed the heel of my hand into my ribs, and talked myself back into my body. A soft voice at my shoulder. Ma'am. The same server. She offered a small envelope, the kind checks sleep in. I'm not. I started. It's not the bill, she said quickly. It's evidence, I guess. Color caught her cheeks. Sorry, I just thought. I took the envelope. Inside sat a glossy print from the house camera, time-stamped, clear as noon. Gavin's arm anchoring Norah while he spoke. My face learning the new rules. The image cut like clean glass. Behind it, a second slip. A copy of our table's itemized bill. Gavin's handwriting sprawled across the bottom where the tip belonged. I've got this. Thank you, I told her. She looked past me at the door. I have a mom, she said. People should be decent. Then she disappeared into the glow again. I stared at the photo. I didn't cry. The shame thinned and left something colder. There are moments when a life opens like a safe. Dials line up. Suddenly, what you locked away is in your hands. I sat on the low step, placed my phone on my knee, and typed to Norah. I will always love you. Call me in 10 minutes so we can talk like family. If you don't, I'll take you at your word and act accordingly. I hit send. The message clock on the screen chose a color and began its silent count. A town car coasted up to the curb. The driver leaned toward me through the window. You okay, ma'am? Fine, I said. Just waiting on time. He nodded like he understood too much. The city rolled past in windows and the smell of rain deepened. I watched the message clock, imagined the phone in Norah's clutch buzzing, her eyes closing, a breath drawn, imagined her thumb choosing me. It didn't buzz back. 7 minutes. 9. 10. The cold inside me set like glass. I stood, slid the evidence back into its envelope, and walked to my car. The traffic on the avenue had thickened. Someone honked at a ghost. I kept my hands light on the wheel the way I do when ice lies under the tires. By the time I reached the Parkway North, the last of the heat was gone. Anger is a firework. Resolve is a pilot light. I drove with the steady flame. My house sat in its usual hush. The porch light a square of domestic theater on the steps. Inside, the hall smelled faintly of lemon oil and old paper. I hung my jacket with care, placed the envelope on the entry table, and kept walking until the house narrowed into the basement stair. Downstairs, the concrete remembered winter. My breath fogged the air once, twice, then steadied. Fluorescent light flickered. The chain chimed against its housing. The safe sat where it has sat for 20 years. Squat. Grey. Indifferent. People assume a safe means secrets. Sometimes a safe simply means choices you promised yourself you would make carefully. I lifted the framed photo of Norah at 12, the day we built a kite too big for us, and tried to fly it anyway. Her grin still tilted to one side. I set it face down. The key slid into the wall-mounted box. The box gave up the dial chart. Upstairs, my phone thudded against wood. Reflex pulled me 2 steps before I stopped. A new message banner waited. Not Norah. Gavin. We're good then. I read it twice as if the words might pivot and point to Grace from another angle. They didn't. I slid the phone into my pocket and sat on the stool in front of the safe. The dial under my fingers felt like a pulse. I knew the combination in my hands better than in my head. The numbers live in the skin if you turn them often enough. Left to 40, right to 22, left to 9. The familiar clicks like distant metronomes. The safe opened with a sigh I felt in my teeth. Inside, folders, a velvet pouch, a narrow wooden box, an envelope thick with the life I had worked for. Documents, drafts, receipts, lines where my name promised to do as it said. I laid them out like tools. On the workbench, I spread a manila folder marked, Trust. The draft letter for the wedding waited in it. All smooth language and clean signatures where placeholders lived. I read the first paragraph and stopped at the figure. I let the figure sit there between us like a quiet guest who could shatter the table if he stood up too fast. Next, a thin white envelope heavy as a stone. The certified check image I'd kept from another decision. The one that taught me money is only as good as the hand that offers it. Behind that, stock certificates that had once been paper dreams and were now mortgage-quiet facts. I left the strings exactly as they were printed. Tonight wasn't for changing figures. Tonight was for changing where they pointed. On a yellow pad, I wrote 3 lines. Teach value on their stage. Do not humiliate. Do not beg. The words steadied me more than the basement air ever could. I set my watch on the bench and opened the velvet pouch. The old ring winked up at me. My mother's. It fit my finger like a sentence that had always been waiting. The phone buzzed again. I didn't look. I pictured Gavin hiring a photographer to catch the angle of his jaw, his handwriting, "I've got this," for an audience of strangers who would clap for a man paying a bill he ordered. People will clap for anything that looks like certainty. I placed the restaurant photo beside the trust draft and stared at the two until they blurred. The moment I was asked to disappear and the document that said I hadn't. A choice sat between them. One path ran hot and petty. Show up at the church door with a bullhorn and a ledger. The other path ran cooler and longer. Arrive with respect, exact as a bill, and ask for the same. Upstairs, the front door settled in its frame as the house exhaled. The clock in the kitchen clicked over a minute you could not get back. The basement took the sound like a lake takes a pebble. Ripples came. The cold inside me softened at the edges and then held. I gathered the pieces. The trust draft slid back into its folder. The envelope of evidence tucked into a leather portfolio. The ring stayed on my hand. I closed the safe but didn't spin the dial. Not yet. On my way past the workbench, I found a pen I liked. Not because of how it wrote, but because of how it made me hold my hand like someone whose signature mattered. I wrote another line on the pad. 2 weeks. Rewrite the ending. My phone lit the wall with a pale square. A new message, timid as a knock. Mom. Norah. I didn't move. I let the screen go dark and the darkness settled again with it. Then I picked up the phone and read her single word twice. I typed, "I'm here," and waited for the 3 dots to bloom. They didn't. The house returned to its hush. I set the phone down, slid my thumb over the safe door, and finally turned the dial. The numbers fell away from one another with obedient clicks until the wheel wouldn't move. When the bolt caught, the sound was small but complete. Tomorrow would require a car, a driver, a dress cut clean, and a voice that could stand at the threshold without shaking. Tomorrow would want receipts. Tonight wanted only one decision. I looked at the photo of the kite and turned it face up again. Okay, I said into the cool humming room. We do it on your stage. The basement light hummed its answer. I climbed the stairs with the portfolio under my arm. Every step a steady count toward the place where a woman stops asking to be allowed in and starts walking through the door. Dawn slipped under the basement door like a polite thief. I brewed coffee upstairs and carried it down to where the air still remembered winter. The safe stood closed. The portfolio waited and my yellow pad kept last night's 3 lines like vows. Teach value on their stage. Do not humiliate. Do not beg. I set the mug beside the pad and opened the portfolio. Paper made small sounds. All business and no apology. Stock certificates thin as old promises sat in a stack. The trust draft beneath them. The draft's first paragraph flowed with the calm a lawyer's pen buys. The number in the middle of it glowed like a signal flare. $10 million. I didn't say it out loud. Money is loud enough on the page. I read the paragraph again and covered the figure with my palm to hear the rest. Remove a number and you can sometimes hear the sentence it's drowning. The sentence said, I want to bless you and bind you to decency without choking you. The number said, perform for me. My phone chimed. I flipped it over. Not Norah. Calendar reminder, call Mr. Cole at 8. I dialed early. He answered on the second ring. Voice already brushed and caffeinated. Ruth, up with the grown-ups, I see. Good morning, Cole. I need a quick consult and a document polish. Paper shuffled on his end. The wedding draft, right? 2 tweaks, I said. Less parade, more purpose. Build in a clause that ties distribution to one simple demonstration of good faith. Define good faith, he said, amused like a man at an aquarium who taps the glass when a shark passes. Respect. Public. Not private. Nothing theatrical. I'll set the line myself. So, a conditional disbursement. Discretionary trigger. Donor retains sole and unreviewable judgment. His voice clicked into gear. Done. There's a small amendment fee. I'll bill the card we have. Do it. Turn around in 48 business hours. You'll see a confirmation this morning. Thanks. Ruth, he added, softer. This kind of clause invites bruises. I'm already bruised, I said and ended the call. The upstairs email bell chimed a minute later. I pictured the fee tapping my card like a finger at a window. Money makes noise when it leaves. I took a photo of the trust letter's first page, thumb blacking out the figure, and dropped it into a folder on my phone I named Receipts. The restaurant photo went in next. I stared at the 2 images together until my phone picked up a new notification and the light shifted. Norah, can we talk? I breathed once before my fingers moved. Me. Always. Norah. I didn't sleep. Me either. Norah. It was a long day. You complicated it. I set the phone down so I wouldn't answer too quickly. When I picked it up, the next line was waiting. Norah. I need $30,000. It's time sensitive. Please don't make it a thing. I read the number twice. She'd never put it that plainly before. Amount first, then the softener. My thumb hovered. The pad's 3 lines looked back at me. Do not beg. Do not humiliate. Teach value on their stage. Me. For what? The dots appeared and held there like someone tapping their foot at a door. Norah. Final florist payment plus decorator deposit plus hair makeup block. We're already getting a discount. It's normal. Me. Who's normal? A longer pause. Norah. Everyone's. You wouldn't understand. There it was. The sentence she kept in her pocket like a hand warmer. I pictured the envelope on the restaurant table. Gavin's handwriting on the line where generosity is supposed to go. I've got this. Of course he did. When the bill is theater, The ink is costume. Me. I won't give you that money. The words left my hand cleanly, evenly spaced. I set the phone down and let the hum of the light fill the space where panic sometimes lives. It pinged in under a minute. A call, not a text. I answered. Ruth, you made your point last night, Norah said. Her voice was taut. An old violin ready to snap a string. Do you need to keep pushing? I'm not pushing, I said. I'm pausing. For what? She laughed once. Brittle. A lesson. Mom, I don't need. You asked me for $30,000 as if you were asking for salt. I'm saying no because I love you, not because I'm stingy. I'm saying no because I want to bless your marriage, not fund its costume department. You think flowers are costumes? The string creaked. You think everything I care about is shallow. I think some things you've been told to care about are expensive substitutes for courage. Silence hit us both. Then she said, Gavin's family is covering most of it already. This is just the last piece. If you don't want to be part of it. I do want to be part of it, I said. I want to be part of the part that lasts. Another silence. The kind where two people hold different ropes and pretend it's the same one. When she spoke, her voice was colder. Then you're not my mother. I let the sentence sit in the air and then I set it down in the only place strong enough to hold it. Nowhere. I'll be at your wedding, I said gently. On time, well-dressed and quiet unless asked to speak. You're not invited, she said. I heard that last night. I'm still your mother, I said. Those are different invitations. Breath on the line. A room full. I have to go. Okay. The call went dead. The basement pressed in for a second and then let go. I wrote a fourth line on the pad. 4. Hold the line even when it bleeds. Then I crossed out the if and wrote when. I needed information, not comfort. Information lives with people who do actual work and don't have time to turn it into a show. Cora would know. Cora had always known where the school kept extra tape and how to coax a fire alarm into silence without calling the fire department. She'd also stood beside Norah at a dozen milestones that didn't require a violinist to confirm they'd happened. I scrolled for her name. She answered with a cough and a laugh. You call a teacher before the clock. You get chalk dust, Ruth. Sorry, I said. See, I need a favor. You always do it politely, she said. That's my favorite thing about you. What's the situation? Not a situation, I said. A map. I need to know the lay of the land for the wedding. Parking, valet procedures, vendor doors, where the coordinator lives when she's pretending not to hear people. The parts you only learn by tripping over them. Cora hummed. You're not trying to crash it, are you? I'm trying to arrive without becoming the story, I said. Which somehow makes you the only person who can help. I'm flattered and suspicious. Lucky for you, I can get eyes on it. Paper shuffled. The venue website has the public stuff. The rest I can ask. My cousin catered there last month. He still has the staff packet. Could you get me a screenshot of the valet map and the coordinator contact page? Give me an hour, she said. And Ruth, what exactly is your plan? Teach value on their stage, I said. Ha. She waited. And what's the part where you don't set yourself on fire to keep them warm? I wrote that down, I said. Line 3. She laughed again, softer. You know I love Norah. You also know I love you enough to tell you you're an idiot if you need to hear it. I'll take both kinds of love, I said. Good. I'll text you the packet. We hung up. I breathed. The basement air stayed stubborn, but my chest didn't. I put the stock certificates back into their sleeve and rearranged the trust draft on top like a compass. A new email from Mr. Cole slid into view. Amendment request received. Estimated filing by close of business tomorrow. A second email followed, payment confirmation. I imagined the fee stepping off my card and joining the other little soldiers that march out every month. Money is always forming tiny parades somewhere you can't see. Upstairs, the front door clicked as the morning paper met wood. Habit had me reaching for it and flipping the pages until I caught myself. I wasn't looking for news. I was looking for permission disguised as a headline. None came, which was better. The phone buzzed. Cora again. 2 images and a note. Valet map plus staff corridor. Don't share. Also, coordinator is named Sylvie. She is the sort who looks over your shoulder when you talk. Speak slowly. Force her to meet your eyes. She respects certainty. She hates handwritten name tags that aren't in her font. Use hers. The map was a clean diagram with arrows that made other people feel important. Valet drop at the front loop. Vendor entrance around the side. A staff corridor like a secret river that touched every room without ever seeing the party. I saved the images to receipts, and then printed them to mark later with a pen that made me hold my hand like I meant it. Another buzz. Unknown number. Ruth speaking. Mrs. Avery. A cordial baritone, the kind that sells doors and optimism. This is Mason. Mr. Cole passed me your number. He said you might require a driver for a formal event. My friend works quickly, I said. So do I, he said. Black car, clean lines, discreet. I'm available this weekend and the next. Do you have a dress code and a schedule in mind? Dress code, respect. Schedule, precise. I'll send details. Can you do recon with me tomorrow? I want to run the route and learn the drop. That's my favorite kind of client, he said. I'll text you a quote. He did. It was fair and it was not small. I replied. Accepted. And added, please wear patience and bring a spare. Mason. Always do. I set the phone down and looked at the pad again. 3 lines, now 4. A 5th wanted out. 5. Leave room for grace. I underlined it until the paper thinned and the wood showed through lightly. Then I closed the pad and slid it into the portfolio. The basement light flickered once as if it were practicing its exit. I switched it off before it could leave me in a rehearsal for the wrong illumination. Upstairs, the kitchen held ordinary daylight like a promise it had made every morning for 20 years. I poured the last of the coffee. The mug warmed my hands into feeling. The phone vibrated on the counter. Gavin. I let it ring to voicemail and then listened. Ruth, he said, drawing my name like a string across a bow. I hear you're making calls. Let's keep this simple. Norah doesn't need you to make a scene. If you care about her, you'll stay home. Be a lady. I deleted it and wrote a 6th line on the pad without opening it. 6. Be a lady. Don't stay home. By noon, I had the driver booked, the tailor's number pulled from an old card that smelled faintly of cedar, and a folder named Receipts fattening on my phone. The trust draft sat beneath a paperweight shaped like a small honest stone. The basement had done its work. Cora texted one more time. A photo of a whiteboard at the school lounge. Schedules, reminders, a cartoon of a cat wearing a tiny cap. Under it, she'd scrolled, 2 weeks. Rewrite the ending. I smiled in the empty kitchen, felt the line land like a metronome on my ribs, and answered, see you at 4. Thank you. By 4 o'clock, the city had decided to be kind. The sidewalk cafe wore late light like a linen shirt. Tables clinked with glass and small laughter. Cora waved me over with a pen between her fingers and a folder under her arm. You look like a woman who slept with a spreadsheet under her pillow, she said. I slept beside a pad of rules, I said, taking the chair. Coffee. Teacher answer, yes. She slid the folder across. Staff packet from my cousin. Don't lose it. It's his job if this floats. Inside, a stapled map labeled Guest Traffic, Front Loop, a second diagram, Vendor/Service Access, and a schedule grid with more boxes than a calendar. A posted in Cora's upright handwriting rode the top, Valet list locks T48. Seating cards print T36. Coordinator. Sylvie. Look her in the eyes. Bless him, I said. And you? I prefer offerings of biscotti, she said, breaking one in half and tossing me the larger piece. All right, Ruth, walk me through what you think you know. Front loop is theater. Vendor door is reality. Staff corridor touches every room. I tapped the service map. If I'm asked to leave, reality gets me out with grace. If I'm treated like family, theater will have to look me in the eye. Cara smiled. That's the voice of a woman who's been to more gymnasiums than chapels. School concerts are spiritual, I said. You learn who claps for the oboe. She sipped, watched me over the rim. You okay? No, I said. But I'm steady. Good. She nodded at the schedule grid. Here's your clock. Final valet submissions, plate numbers and names, lock in 48 hours. If you're not on it, the young men in black tuxes will treat you like a delivery. Also, the coordinator prints permanent seating at T-36. Before that, it's sticky notes and hope. I took out my pen, the one that makes me hold my hand like a signature matters, and circled the boxes. T-48. Valet list. T-36. Seating cards. Under it I wrote, arrive with certainty. Cara slid her phone across without ceremony. On the screen, a staff email thread scrolled. Subject, Saturday VIP drop, rehearsal notes. In the middle of it, a small JPEG of the valet loop with arrows and words. No Ubers in front loop. Family row, row A, left. Rehearsal Friday 1600 hours, back entrance. Screenshot that and pretend you never saw the thread, she said. You'll want to memorize the back entrance. It's where Grace hides. I snapped the shot, dropped it into receipts, and looked up to find Cara studying my face the way doctors study a chart they wish were better. Are you going to swing a bat? She asked. Or are you going to stand at the plate and make everyone look? Stand, I said. Speak only if the ball is thrown at my head. Good. She pushed her chair back a few inches and watched the street. I should warn you, people like Sylvie are allergic to improvisation. If you want something, ask for it before she thinks about saying no. And bring her problem a solution that uses her font. I'll ask for the font, I said. You'll get a PDF, she said. And yes, I did coach a principal through this once. My phone buzzed. Mason. Outside when you're ready. He sent a photo of a quietly expensive sedan idling in a legal spot. Miracle and flex. Your driver drives like a promise, Cara said, glancing. He was born that way, I said, standing to meet the car. Walk with me. We reached the curb. Mason stepped out, taller than the car made him look. Opened the door like a stagehand who knows the scene is about the actor, not the hinge. Cara, this is Mason, I said. He will help me be less interesting. My favorite kind of client goal, Mason said. Do we recon? We do, I said. Front loop first, then the service road, then the corridor. Mason nodded. I ran a wedding circuit for 3 years, he said as we slipped inside. Rule 1. Your car is not the story. Rule 2. If the story comes at you, look bored. We moved uptown. The car's quiet was the quiet of good decisions. I checked the clock on the dash. 16:23. The rehearsal tomorrow would be at 4. My pen hovered over T24, rehearsal, and added back entrance. Mason, I said, front loop has a valet island. I want the nose to the walkway, but I don't want to block a bride, a grandmother, or a fire truck. I'll do a slow S, he said. We flow into the lane, touch the curb, and leave the frame while you're still standing upright. Cameras get the picture. The venue gets the lane back. If security objects, I apologize for their inconvenience in a tone that reminds them I know where the cones live. Perfect, I said. We rolled to the venue. In daylight, it was less fairy tale and more machinery painted white. The front loop did its elegant U. The valet stand waited with the patience of people who had long ago decided this was a religion. I had Mason glide past and aim for the side road. It wrapped the building like a service belt. "Vendor door," Cora said softly from the back seat, peering forward. She had come along after all, because of course she had. That's where the dignity lives on a sweaty day. We parked where the asphalt met a loading dock. A caterer in a black t-shirt pushed a silver rack through a propped door. He nodded at us the way people nod when they recognize professional courtesy. "Let's walk it," I said. We went in. Cool air hit our faces. The corridor was a thin river of taped cables, stacked chairs, taped signs, kitchen. Bride's room. Staff only, in a font that wanted you to ask permission even if you belonged. A woman with a headset came toward us with the momentum of someone who lives in bullet points. Blonde bob, clipboard, the posture of a person allergic to improvisation. "Sylvie," Cora murmured without moving her lips. "Good afternoon," I said, standing where she had to either go through me or around me. "I'm Ruth. I'll be a family guest on Saturday. I wanted to introduce myself before I become your problem." She stopped. The clipboard did a small adjustment. "We handle problems when they arrive," she said. "Who invited you to this corridor?" "No one," I said, "which is why I'm leaving in 30 seconds. First, 2 items you'll want happy before they're loud. My name on the valet list and my name in family row, row A, left. If there's any doubt, you and I can erase it now so your Saturday stays beautiful." Cora's eyebrows flicked. Mason stood behind us like a handsome lamppost, absorbing heat on my behalf. Sylvie's eyes did their work up close. She looked at my dress, my shoes, my pen, my face. "Spelling," she said. I handed her a small printed card I had made on the ride. My name clean, serif, the way her font wanted to feel. She didn't smile. She also didn't hand it back. "Valet list locks in." She glanced at her watch. 41 hours. Family row is the couple's call. Coordinators don't override bloodlines. "Of course," I said. "I'd simply like to ensure the system recognizes the blood. I'm the mother." The word twitched something near her temple. Either respect or calculation. "The groom sends all final lists," she said. "If you'd like to be sure, ask him to email me before the cutoff." I nodded. "Thank you for your time, Sylvie. Your staff corridor is a thing of beauty." She pivoted and left us like a weather system. "Be still, my event planner heart," Cora said when we were moving again. "You just spoke fluent Sylvie." "Did I?" I inhaled once. "I only speak mother and receipts." Mason held the door. Outside, the air tasted like rain rumors. We slid back into the car. "You'll need a dress they can't talk down to," Cora said. "And a watch that keeps time without apologizing." "I have appointments to make," I said, opening my calendar. "Boutique tomorrow at 11. Watch at 1 o'clock. And hair," Cora said, twirling a curl at me for punctuation. "My hair is incapable of disrespect," I said. "It knows better." My phone lit with a name that made the car feel colder. Gavin. I let it ring once and then answered. "Ruth, rehearsal is tomorrow at 4, he said. "Back entrance, for Pete's sake. If you come like a vendor. No photos, no front door, no eyes on you. You can sign the gift table, then you leave. If you do that, maybe we can see about Saturday. Family row is crowded." He spoke like a man offering a blanket in a snowstorm. Thin, clean, and just enough to let himself sleep. "I'll attend the rehearsal if invited by my daughter," I said. "I'll arrive Saturday on time through the front like family. I won't make a scene. If a scene happens, it won't be mine." A beat, then the smile I couldn't see. Only here. "Don't make this harder than it has to be, Ruth. Be reasonable." "Reasonable," I said, is a front door and a chair with my name on it." He laughed softly. "You always did confuse dignity with demands. Tell you what, we're flexible. Come to the back tomorrow at 4 o'clock. We'll decide then if Saturday is a good idea." He let the silence breathe and then added, bright as a blade, "See you at 4. The line went dead. Cora exhaled. "That," she said, "was not an invitation." "No," I said. "It was a leash." "And you?" Mason asked, eyes in the mirror. "I don't wear leashes," I said. "I wear good dresses." I looked at the clock. 17:11. The city tilted toward evening. My pen hovered over the map and drew a thin line from Front Loop to Family Row. I underlined T48 twice. Then I closed the folder and the car merged into a lane that would take us to an old boutique on Michigan Avenue where women still measured respect in quiet elegance. The boutique kept its temperature somewhere between chapel and vault. A glass wall held the city at a reverent distance. Women in navy smiled with the caution of jewelers. Soft jazz played like it charged by the note. "May I help you?" a saleswoman asked, assessing my shoes with a kindness that still measured. "I have an appointment," I said. A woman with long plans and longer standards. Her smile thinned. "We're fully reserved for previews." "I'm here to purchase," I said. "Not preview." "Of course," she said in a tone that means prove it. I set the leather portfolio on the counter and slid out an envelope. The certified check image lay there like a slab of winter sky. Crisp, heavy, indisputable. $500,000 visible. Her pupils widened by a polite millimeter. "We have a private salon in the back," she said, suddenly fluent in hospitality. "This way." The salon wore cream walls and mirrors that told the truth without cruelty. She brought 3 options. I chose the one that made me look like a woman who belongs anywhere she stands. Midnight silk, simple lines, nothing that begged for attention. Alterations included, she said. Delivery within 48 hours. "I need it Saturday morning," I said. "I'll pay the rush fee." "Understood." She produced papers. I produced a pen that makes me slow down. Pages turned. Signatures landed. Money is loud enough by itself. My name made no noise at all. She walked me to the curb as if the sidewalk were also part of the product. Mason slid to the stop with a choreography that made the glass wall approve of us. "Saturday 10 o'clock sharp for final fitting," the saleswoman said, voice lowered for intimacy. "We'll have it pressed and ready. Your driver will look professional," Mason finished. And the woman, not understanding, nodded. Anyway, we drove 2 blocks and let the city loosen its shoulders. I called the stylist from memory and got a voice that had been setting hair since before hairspray knew its name. "Walk-ins are for tourists," she said. "Come at 11 o'clock. Bring a photo of what you think you are, and I'll show you what you can actually carry." "I'll be there," I said. The salon kept its mirrors honest. Products lined the walls like quiet authority. A bell announced us without apology. "You're 2 minutes early," the stylist said, approving that I hadn't been late enough to make her perform grace. She looked at my posture, my shoulders, my bare neck. "You need elegance without effort, volume without performance, and a style that doesn't beg for compliments." "You make women sound like architecture," I said. "We are," she said and gestured to the chair. "Sit. Breathe. Don't help me." She worked in silence, hands sure. At noon, she spun the chair. The mirror showed a woman who looked like she'd always known where she was going. "I also need jewelry advice," I said. "Something that keeps time without apologizing." "Then don't buy decoration," she said. "Buy precision." At 1 o'clock, I crossed the avenue to a jewelry shop with floors that could see their own reflection. The clerk brought options that glittered their case histories at me. I pointed at a classic piece, elegant, understated, price to be taken seriously. She set it on the pad with 2 fingers and told me the number like it might scare me back into my phone. $15,000 landed on a small white receipt that slid into receipts like it belonged. Do you want to wear it out? She asked. Yes, I said, fastening it until it found my pulse and sat there like a metronome that knew my ribs. I want to be on time everywhere I go. Outside, the afternoon snapped into focus. Cora's text arrived. Proof of life. Seating chart in progress. Attached. A photo of the coordinator's office corkboard. I tapped to enlarge. Names on cards. Rows labeled with a font that had opinions. Family row. There it was. Row A, left. Under it, Avery, Norah, Gavin, Gavin's parents. And in row B, left side, a card typed Ruth Avery. The little placement note penciled, back aisle if needed. I felt the temperature around my heart change half a degree. Needed by whom? I saved the image to receipts, and stared until the pixels wanted to blur. Then I saw it. The mislabel on a corridor marker in the photos corner. Vendor corridor. Cora's note followed. They printed these fast. Sylvie hates typos. Use this if you need leverage. The chart was clearly a draft. I typed back. Inverted evidence. She sent a tiny trophy emoji and then, don't gloat. Aim. Mason pulled to the curb, offered a bottle of water like a treaty. Next? He asked. Fitting tomorrow at 11, I said. Then a rehearsal recon at 4 o'clock. Back entrance first, front loop last. He nodded. I'll be patient in both directions. We made one more stop, not on any list. The salon where a stylist keeps a chair for sentiment. She didn't talk much. She'd seen too many hairstyles get blamed for things hair can't change. She switched off the dryer, smoothed my edges with product that smelled like confidence, and said, You're carrying something heavy. Remember to set it down when you embrace her. I will, I said, and tipped more than was correct, because correctness had not been the week's theme. Back home, the basement remembered me. I laid the boutique's claim ticket beside the jewelry receipt and let the numbers sit without multiplying themselves into stories. Money buys signal, not virtue. If virtue arrives, it arrives on foot. The rest of the day moved with the cadence of a woman making simple choices in correct order. I ate something green. I walked. I printed a clean card with my name the way her font wants it. I placed the seating chart photo beside it and wrote in the margin, present versus permitted. At 8 o'clock, Cora called. You okay? I bought a $500,000 entrance and a $15,000 heartbeat, I said. And I still plan to enter like I'm carrying flowers for someone else. She laughed, quick and warm. Good. Listen, one more staff morsel. Sylvie and the venue owner meet on Thursdays at 2. That's tomorrow. If you want something changed on paper, this is when it becomes a PDF instead of a post-it. Thank you, I said. I'll time my call. Do better, she said. Time your courtesy. After we hung up, I drafted an email to Sylvie. Subject, family confirmation, valet and seating. Body, for sentences that shook hands instead of banging a fist. I attached nothing. No demands, only the kind of certainty that creates room for more certainty. Before I hit send, Norah's name filled the screen. Mom, she said when I answered, voice paper cut thin. Can you not make tomorrow into a whole thing? I plan to make it a quiet thing, I said. Does quiet feel safe to you? I don't know what feels safe, she said, and the line bowed under the weight of the sentence. Gavin says you're trying to make a point. I'm trying to make a promise, I said, that I'll be on time, dressed right, and out of the way until someone needs me. If someone tries to move me out of the way, I'll remain a person while they try. That's all. She exhaled. Okay. And Norah. Yeah. If you want me there, say it once aloud to anyone who doubts it. It doesn't have to be poetry, just a line a person can stand on. I hear you, she said. The call ended like a curtain that forgot to swish. I sent the email to Sylvie. Then I set an alarm. Thursday, 13:57. Call venue. Morning brought the small clarity I always trust more than speeches. I dressed in a work outfit and went to the boutique. The stylist circled me like a hawk, tugged and hummed. "Hands at your sides," she said. "Not like you're presenting evidence. The dress will do that." A courier arrived mid-fitting with accessories from a designer across town. The stylist didn't break cadence. "See, the city wants you to succeed. It also wants your money. Decide which voice to answer." We chose hemlines. We chose silence at the sleeve. We chose details barely loud enough to be heard over breathing. She marked a final line and stepped back. "You will look like a woman who belongs anywhere she stands," she said, not offering it as comfort. On my way out, my phone chimed. "Sylvie. Received. Thank you for the courtesy. Please confirm plate number for valet list by 1600 hours today." I texted Mason the request. "Mason. On it. If not confirmed by 15:30, I'll park outside her office with a smile and a pen." I allowed myself exactly one grin. The afternoon turned bureaucratic in the good way. Email from Mr. Cole. Amendment complete. Donor retains sole judgment for distribution. I filed it under receipts, and did not practice the speech it suggested. Words are tools best kept sheathed until the job appears. At 15:28, Mason texted the plate number. I forwarded it to Sylvie. Her reply arrived at 15:41. Added, "See you Saturday." 3 minutes later, another image from Cara. A cleaner seating chart taped to the corkboard. Family row still carried the same names. My card, however, sat in row A now, left side, with a pencil note erased to a ghost smear. In the corner, the misspelled vendor corridor sign was gone, replaced by vendor corridor in all its spelled out certainty. Cara, they fixed the sign, which means they redid the print run, which means someone admitted a mistake. Me, inverted evidence works best in silence. Cara, so do mothers. Evening slid into the windows with the impartiality I needed. I hung the garment bag on the closet door and set the jewelry on its small stand. The portfolio waited by the front door, packed with names, maps, and permission that hadn't asked to be begged for. My phone buzzed once more. Mason, concise as ever. Car handover Saturday 10 o'clock. Rehearsal recon tomorrow 1600 hours. Back entrance. I'll be early. Me too, I said to the empty room, then wrote it on the pad. 7. Always be early. I clicked off the kitchen light and let the hall hold my shadow on its ordinary walls. The house exhaled. I slept like a woman who had done inventory. In the morning, the boutique called to confirm the fitting that afternoon. "We will finish you properly," she said. "You will not have to perform. You will only have to arrive." "I can do that," I said. She paused, then added, "Your final fitting lands today. Don't be late." Saturday put on a blue sky and ironed it flat. Mason pulled to the curb outside my house 5 minutes early. The car's paint holding the morning like a mirror that preferred truth. I carried the portfolio and the garment bag out as if they were instruments. The dress wore me correctly. The jewelry found my pulse and made a quiet promise. "Morning," Mason said, taking the garment bag, though I was already wearing what mattered. "Route is clear. I've scouted construction, police details, and the florist's truck that always pretends it owns the alley." "Thank you," I said, and fastened the seat belt with the ritual of people who have learned what a sudden stop can do. At 10 o'clock on the dot, we took delivery of the final alterations. The boutique woman spoke in velvet bullet points. I listened, nodded, asked one question about the hem. When we rolled away, the showroom glass kept our reflection like a blessing it wouldn't give twice. "Front loop first," Mason said. "We'll recon the slow S one more time. Then you step out like time is on your side." "It is," I said. I brought a clock. He smiled at the windshield. The venue swam up, white against trees that couldn't decide whether to look impressed. Guests already streamed toward the entrance in clothes that thought they were scenery. Photographers hovered like disciplined bees. The valet island looked rehearsed. Mason eased the car into the arc as if the road were a sentence and we were the comma that made it scan. The door opened with its soft theater. I stepped onto stone and felt 100 small calculations hit me and move on. Dress, posture, jaw, the unarguable line of a woman who came to belong. "Good afternoon, ma'am," the valet captain said, eyes absorbing plate, badge, posture. Name: Ruth Avery. I handed him the printed card in her font. He checked the tablet, nodded once, and tore a small rectangle from a pad. Valet 217. He placed it in my palm like a secret that had earned its whisper. Artifact number 1. I slipped it into my clutch. "Welcome, Mrs. Avery," he said, and meant it because the tablet gave him permission. "Thank you," I said. Mason glided forward, and the car slid away from us as if pulled by a string only he could see. The lobby smelled like flowers pretending not to be expensive. The open bar had begun its diplomacy, glasses chiming with nervous courage. People practiced smiles and mirrored trim. I moved through the space at the speed of a woman who knows how to wait without looking like furniture. Heads turned, then looked away correctly, then turned back when their curiosity remembered it had manners. A pair of Gavin's friends, sharp suits with sharper eyes, clocked me with the bland attention of bouncers hired for their ability to turn calm into policy. Norah appeared at the top of the stair in a soft spill of silk that made the staircase wish it were a river. She saw me halfway down and blinked. Not the flutter of a woman curated for cameras, but the startle of a daughter remembering a childhood room. Panic tugged her mouth for a heartbeat. Then she smoothed it into the smile you can only practice in a mirror that loves you. I lifted a hand, small and civilian. She hesitated. One breath, two, and then came down 3 steps, stopped where tradition couldn't accuse her of running. "Hi," she said. "Clothes." Her perfume was the same one she'd worn on the day she got the teaching job when she hugged me in a school hallway that smelled like pencil stubs and hope. "Hi," I said. "You look like a good decision." A laugh slipped out of her before she could catch it. Then she tamped it down. "You're early." "I like to practice arriving," I said. "Gavin thinks," she started, then changed the noun. "Everyone thinks it might be easier if you sit toward the back. Fewer eyes, less pressure." "Easier for whom?" I asked gently. She pressed her lips together and didn't answer because the honest answer would be unfair to both of us. "There's a seat," she said. "It's just not front row." "Family row," I supplied. "Row A, left." She flinched at the precise words. "They said there weren't enough chairs." "There are always enough chairs," I said. "The only thing there's never enough of is courage." Her eyes shone, then steeled. "Please, Mom." "Today isn't about me," I said. "I agree. That's why I'm here to be easy to seat." Behind her, a camera flashed. She glanced toward the landing. Gavin had arrived at the top of the stairs with his grin set to winning. His suit cost opinions and came with a pocket square that looked like it told jokes about other pocket squares. He descended with the grace of men who never doubt the floor. "Ruth," he said, on my name like it was a napkin he'd tuck where it belonged. "You made it." "On time," I said. "Let's make this smooth," he said, bracketed smile for the 2 women watching from the bar. "I reserved something special for you." He gestured toward a side aisle where a single chair waited between a ficus and a sconce that had never known applause. "You'll see perfectly. You won't be in the way and everyone gets what they need." "That's generous," I said. "And clever." He leaned in an inch. "It's generous," he repeated. The way a man repeats a price so that the buyer hears only relief. Norah watched us like a tightrope walker watches wind. "Please," she said, voice for me alone. "Don't fight. Just be there." "I am," I said. "Right where I should be." I turned toward the main aisle. The usher at the head, young, earnest, with a jaw that had just learned about razors, glanced at his list, then at me. I offered my card. He glanced again and found my name where Sylvie's PDF said it would be. "Right this way, Mrs. Avery," he said with the honest relief of a man whose job just got simpler. We stepped toward Family Row. "Hold up," Gavin said, pleasant as a bell at a store door. He snapped 2 fingers almost invisibly. One of the sharp suits detached from the wall. "Small change," Gavin told the usher. "Ruth's got a special seat by the aisle. We talked about it." He smiled at me like a man delivering an upgrade. The usher froze between columns of certainty. His eyes cut to me. His list cut him back. "Use the list," I told him, "the way you tell a young man where the fire extinguisher lives. If your paper says Family Row, seat me there." The usher swallowed. Looked to Sylvie. She didn't nod. She simply failed to stop him. It was enough. "This way, Mrs. Avery," he said, and then he flinched hard because the mic squealed. The house speakers coughed. A podium we hadn't paid attention to found its purpose. Sylvie stepped toward it with the inevitability of a tide. "Quick note before we begin," she said, voice carrying in a practiced arc that dusted every corner. "We seat from the front. Please keep aisles clear. If you have a concern, bring it to me, not to one another." She didn't look at us. She looked at the room, and the room straightened its posture. Gavin's smile yanked back into place like a blind someone had let go. "Fantastic," he said brightly. "Let's proceed. Ruth, be a lady." "Working on it," I said. The usher took a step down the center aisle. I took one with him. "Stop." Gavin's voice dropped the theater. He snapped his fingers once. The sharp suits reappeared, this time with a laminated card the size of a small shield. He held it up as if it were a holy relic. "Coordinator's notes," he announced. "Special placements. Says right here, beggar not allowed." The word jolted the room like a wrong note at a funeral. Sylvie turned fast. "Let me see that." Gavin offered the card for exactly 1 second, just long enough for the phones to catch it, and then pivoted his wrist like a magician. "You heard the policy," he said. "This is about consistency." "Hand it over," Sylvie said, full clipboard voice. "Now." He did, because even men who think they run a day know who actually keeps it from falling apart. She read. Her mouth flattened at the edges. "This is not mine," she said. "This font isn't ours." A ripple of confusion ticked through the front rows. I felt something colder than anger settle in. That word. The convenience of it. How it travels as rumor in rooms where men want to win cheaply. I took the portfolio out slowly, like a woman removing a violin from a case. "Artifact," I said quietly to no one and everyone. I slid a photo to the usher so he could hand it to Sylvie. The house camera still from the restaurant. The handwritten, "I've got this," on the bill. Above it, a screenshot Cora had sent, the early seating chart with my card set in row A. In the corner, the now corrected corridor sign spelled wrong in the draft. Vendor corridor. The image wasn't dramatic unless you spoke fluent logistics. Sylvie did. Her eyes flicked, misspelled sign, first run seating, pencil note, my card in place. She looked up at me and then at the current chart pinned at the back of the room. The fresh print, clean and confident. Row A, left. My name present. No pencil. No ghost smear. For once, the paperwork had done what paper is supposed to do. Remember without lying. Gavin laughed, too loud, like men do when they need to drown out the little metronome in their chest that just discovered truth has better rhythm. "We're really passing around screenshots now," he said. "This is a wedding, not a courtroom." "Then stop making objections," I said, "and let the usher seat." The tall guard shifted again. Indecision wearing a tux. He leaned towards Sylvie. "Ma'am." "Seat from the front," she repeated, and this time it was a verdict. To the usher, not looking at Gavin. Row A left. We moved. The aisle widened in the only way aisles know how. Psychologically. Camera phones lowered an inch. Conversation lost a little of its delighted edge. People always calm down when a rule asserts itself without yelling. 2 steps from the row, Gavin stepped into the lane like a man testing the weight of his own shadow. "One last time," he said quietly enough to sound generous. "I'll make this easy. Take the side seat. Walk away proud. I'll even say something nice about you when I toast." "No," I said. He put his hand out, not to touch, to show what could be touched if the script required a prop later. "Then you're choosing the spectacle." "I'm choosing the chair with my name on it," I said and stepped past him. Norah stood at the end of the row. Uncertainty and courage braided tight in her mouth. I stopped beside her. Close. I could smell the hairspray and something floral that didn't need a price tag. "Thank you," I said under the music. The quartet began conjuring to lubricate an awkward hinge. "For the sentence." She nodded. Tiny. It was just 2 words. You'd be amazed how many lives get built on 2 words. We sat. The air around us reassembled itself. Gavin stayed in the aisle for a half-beat too long and then returned to the landing, smile operable again, hand on the banister like he'd planned it that way. Sylvie stepped to the mic once more. "We begin in 3 minutes, she said, and then, because she was a surgeon with a clipboard, added, "If anyone wishes to change their seating, the time to do that was yesterday." Laughter, a burst of real laughter, smoothed a wrinkle none of her charts could have predicted. The quartet shifted into the prelude. The tall guard receded into the architecture. The sharp suits resumed their wall impression. The room exhaled like a collected animal. Then the echo arrived. A woman in a choral dress, 2nd row, groom's side, stood, clutch clamped under her elbow, face a moral weather report. "Excuse me," she said, not into a mic, but with enough church in her lungs to make it travel. "Is he really calling the bride's mother a beggar?" The word wasn't a question. It was a charge. Gavin froze a second too long. His mother patted the woman's arm, smile lacquered. "Let's all focus on the joy," she said, which people say when their joy can't stand on its own legs. "I am," the woman said. "That's why I'm asking." The room's appetite for spectacle flickered back on. I felt the hinge swing. I didn't push it. Sylvie did. She stepped to the podium and picked up the laminate again, held it up for exactly as long as it takes for a few close phones to capture it and a few far eyes to see its lie. "This is not a venue document," she said, crisp as a folded napkin. "It is not ours. It should not have been used." She laid it down the way you lay down something you're done with and will not pick up again. "We're going to celebrate these families," she said. "Kindly take your seats." It should have ended there. A competent room would have let the plot settle back on its runner. But competence is a rumor people spread about crowds. Crowds are just water with shoes. A small voice near the back. "My feed says she got banned." A larger voice. "She's seated, isn't she?" Another. "Was there a fight?" "Not yet," someone said. And people laughed the awful laugh of almost. Norah inhaled, and I could feel the weight of what she wanted to carry by herself until it bent her. She leaned toward me 1 inch. "Make them stop," she whispered. It wasn't a request for me to be the show. It was a request for me to be the weather. I shook my head once. "That's not my job. That's leadership's." She looked at the podium. Sylvie looked at Gavin. The quartet ran out of polite songs and started over. Gavin stepped toward the mic with the oily relief of a man who believes a microphone loves him. "Friends," he began, smile back to weaponized. "Let's take a breath. There's been a small misunderstanding, but—" "Stop," Sylvie said, stepping in front of him with the martial grace of someone who has yanked power cords out of walls mid-speech. She turned the mic off, then on again, but pointed it away from him. She pointed it at me. It was not a coronation. It was not even a permission. It was triage. "The wound is here. The bandage goes here. You can do this in 9 words or fewer. Her eyes said. Do it clean. 100 faces angled. 100 lenses adjusted. The quartet found a soft chord and held it like a held breath. I stood, not quickly, not slowly. The mic hummed against my palm. My voice had to be a tool, not a flare. I looked at my daughter first, then at the room. The line I'd written on the yellow pad slid up my ribs and waited. Good afternoon, I said. I'm here to sit, to bless, and to be quiet when quiet is kindness. The room stilled. The sentence landed. Somewhere a phone captured it. Somewhere else, a heart did. Then we're done, Sylvie said, turning the mic a degree toward the aisle, toward the future, and the quartet released the chord into something like relief. From the landing, Gavin clapped once, twice, starting a polite scatter he could take credit for. He didn't notice the photographer catching his face, annoyed, off balance, late. Please be seated, Sylvie said to the room. Then to me, sotto voce, a private gift in public. Mrs. Avery, thank you. She kept the mic pointed in my direction, just a second longer than necessary, long enough for anyone holding a camera to find me, frame me, and decide whether to believe their own eyes. The officiant cleared his throat. The quartet slid into the aisle music, and the room began to believe in ceremony again. We rose. Dresses whispered. Shoes remembered how to be quiet. For 6 minutes, beauty outran everything else. Then vows ended, rings found their fingers, and relief loosened the room's posture. We funneled toward cocktail hour, where ice took turns breaking itself in buckets, and waiters premiered small, persuasive foods. Laughter relearned its job. Cameras exhaled. Gavin raised a flute and, with the confidence of a man who thinks amplification is affection, tapped the crystal. Friends, he said. Tonight is a miracle of logistics and love. He let the room clap for the word logistics, like it had done something brave. Small snafu earlier. Our fault completely. We fixed it. Let's move on. He smiled at me, generous for the balcony. And let's acknowledge the bride's mother for her composure. The beat before composure did a lot of work. A few obliging claps. My name walked around the edge of a mouth or two and decided not to enter. Sylvie stood near the sound table with arms folded like parentheses. She caught my eye, then glanced at a small riser with a mic. A question in her eyebrow. Do you want the neat version now or the messy version later? I shook my head. Let the party breathe. But the party had a cough. At the bar I heard it. Beggar. Screenshots. Security. The rumor had legs and new shoes. Cora slid to my elbow with a plate of something that had decided to be salmon at the last minute. He's about to launder the narrative, she murmured. If you're going to speak, do it for something worth owning. Not a fight, I said. A receipt. On cue, Gavin stepped back up, charm reheated. We'll have toasts in a minute, he said. But before that, he gestured to a small table near the dance floor where gifts papered in aspirational neutrals had been arranged like polite mountains. Norah and I want to thank our families for their support. He pointed his gratitude like a flashlight. It found his parents for a long, warm pass. It passed over me quickly, the way a driver checks a mirror she doesn't intend to use. Mom, Norah said softly at my side. You don't have to. I know, I said. And I won't unless asked. Sylvie inhaled, exhaled, and then, because rooms sometimes ask without words, tilted the mic toward me again. A brief word from the mother of the bride, she said with the surgical calm of someone removing a splinter without alarming the patient. Eyes turned. Not all of them were friendly. Not all of them needed to be. I walked to the riser like a woman approaching a sink. Wash hands, do the work, leave it cleaner than you found it. Good evening, I said. I promise to be quiet when quiet is kindness. Kindness also tells the truth. Briefly. I paused. The room tried on the idea. I was asked to sit in family row, I continued, because that's where mothers sit. I'm grateful to everyone who enforced that simple sentence. A polite murmur of assent from the sector of the room that respects nouns. And because weddings are also contracts with witnesses, I said, I want to put one more sentence on the record. Not to shame. To certify. I opened the portfolio. No flourish, no plucked heartstring. Paper doesn't need violins. It needs light. Artifact number 2. A single-page letter. First paragraph visible. The figure under my thumb. This, I said, holding it where cameras could read the letterhead but not the number, is an earlier draft of a family trust one prepared for today. The amount doesn't matter right now. The purpose does. It says in lawyerly English that I intended to bless this marriage publicly and materially if I saw public decency in return. A movement on the landing. Gavin smiled with his eyes, not his mouth. What a lovely sentiment, he called as if he'd ordered it. A chuckle here, a shrug there. Someone whispered, performative, and meant me. I nodded once. Performative hurts. Yes. So let me show you what the absence of performance looks like. I slid the second sheet onto the mic stand shelf. Artifact number 3. A notarized copy. My name, the trustee, the clause Mr. Cole had filed. Donor retains sole and unreviewable judgment. I let the sentence sit in the air. People who read for a living nodded. Gavin started to say something, but I raised a hand that made no noise and also made room. I'm not asking anyone to clap for me. I'm asking us to agree that love without respect is just expensive noise. Today, when a laminated card that said, beggar not allowed, tried to do the job of a rule, an actual rule, paper signed, dated, corrected it. And my daughter, I looked at Norah, said a sentence out loud that cost her something that matters more than money. The room did that small mammal thing crowds do when they're learning against their will. Ears forward, breath quiet. Gavin laughed again, friendly like a chalkboard. Ruth, you brought props. We brought a wedding. I brought receipts, I said evenly. You brought a story. They're different. He took a step, palms open to the audience. Folks, let's celebrate. We don't need. Read it. Someone near the front called. The choral dress woman again. Braver now. Read the number. A ripple. Laughter here and, ooh, there. The awful appetite of curiosity woke up and started looking for utensils. Norah's hand found my sleeve. A warning and a plea. Don't feed them. I nodded to her. No numbers, I said to the room. Not tonight. Why not? Gavin said lightly, smile climbing again. If you're so proud. Because money is the cheapest part of all this, I said. And because I won't buy love. I'll recognize it. Cora, somewhere off to my left, breathed out like a teacher watching a kid put the right block on the right peg. Gavin's grin thinned to a wire. Then let me recognize something, he said, stepping onto the riser without being invited. He picked up the letter I'd set down, artifact number 2, turned it to the crowd as if it were a menu, and read the figure aloud in a voice meant for headlines. $10 million. The number was a flare. Phones rose. Glasses paused midair. 1,000 new narratives grew legs instantly. I didn't grab the page. I let the sound run its circuit, burn off oxygen, settle into the stale smell that follows fireworks. Thank you, I said. Now the number is out of your mouths. Let's put the meaning back in. Gavin laughed, triumphant like a man who just found the lever labeled, spectacle. You see, he told the room, we're not beggars. We're choosy. Choosy is good, I said. Here's what I choose. I reached into the portfolio and took out a third document. Older paper, edges softened by a decade of touch. Artifact number 4, a photocopy of a cashier's check from a year that matters to me more than any number. My late husband's handwriting on the memo line. A small amount compared to today, but heavy with what we were then. I held it so only Norah could see the scroll. Her breath left her body in a sound I recognized from another hospital, Another room. This, I said, my voice staying even because somebody's had to, is the first big promise your father and I made to our future. It wasn't a lot. It was everything we had that month. We chose each other in public and in paper. I turned the copy face down on the stand. That small private act cost me more than the night's entire theater. The room did not know that. It didn't have to. Norah did. Gavin tilted his head, shock curious. So the point, I said, is that money without respect is a bribe, and respect without money is a speech. I will not offer either. I will offer a condition. Phones leaned in. The room likes a rule it can repeat later as if it had invented it. If, I said, and the word cleared its throat inside the mic, my daughter is treated with decency, in public, in speech, in seat, in story, by the people who claim her, then I will bless this marriage materially at a level that makes sense for a family, not a circus. If not, I will not. A murmur that had thinking in it, not just appetite. Sylvie looked at me for the beat it takes to decide whether chaos has been tamed or renamed. She gave a single surgical nod. She'd heard the clause. She'd seen the notarized sentence. She knew a condition when it wore elegance. Gavin smiled with his teeth. Translation, she wants me to say please. Translation, I said. I want you to treat her like a person, not a prop. Out loud. Where it counts. Where the cameras live. He gestured broadly, angling himself to the balcony lens. I love Norah more than money. Say that into her life, I said. Not the lens. His jaw flickered. For a moment, a boy under the suit tried to remember how to lose without dying. He didn't find it. We don't perform for ultimatums, he said. But his voice forgot to smile. Great, I said. Then don't perform. Just stop calling her mother names off mic and ask your security to stop rehearsing escort choreography. We'll call that good faith. The clause understands those words. I tapped the notarized copy. A few in the room laughed. Kind laughter. The sort you give a woman who has chosen a small tool over a large weapon. Gavin leaned very close. So close the crowd could pretend we were affectionate. You think they believe you, he hissed. You think they don't see what this is? A stunt with a checkbook. I think they believe what people always believe, I said just as quietly. The person who doesn't raise her voice. He pulled back. Smile snapped on again. Then let's toast, he said into the mic, seizing narrative like a spilled drink. To love, to respect. The coral-dressed woman called, uninvited and perfect. Laughter that didn't like him joined her. He lifted his flute. So did the room. I lowered mine. One more thing, I said before the clink could drown it. I picked up the trust draft and, with 2 fingers, tore off the bottom corner, the part with the figure visible, and placed that scrap in my clutch. The rest I folded and returned to the portfolio. Gasps. A few delighted ohs. A man near the back muttered, symbolic, like it was an accusation. A different man said, elegant, like it was permission. It's still there, I said. It's just not owed. It's reserved for decency, like any good promise. Cora's breath hitched. Approval shaped like a laugh you keep in your mouth. Gavin stared at the torn edge as if the paper had bitten him. You're unbelievable, he said softly. I'm specific, I said. Silence remembered the room. Then the applause came. Not for me, not for him, but for the sentence itself. It wasn't loud. It was long enough to change the air. I stepped down. As I passed Norah, she caught my wrist. Not hard, not staged, just human. Is it true? She whispered, eyes searching mine like a house looking for its own lights. All of it. The money, the condition, the respect. And Dad. Her voice broke exactly once on the word. Especially Dad, I said. Her fingers tightened. Then she let go and turned to find Gavin. She found his wrist the way she'd found mine. She didn't smile. Gavin, she said, not loud, but all the microphones in the room suddenly wished they could be where we were. Norah didn't let go of Gavin's wrist. She turned it gently, like testing a jar lid, and he flinched, even though no pain lived there. Around us, the room tried to decide whether to inhale or pretend it already had. Not here, he murmured, smile angled toward the balcony. Let's be honest, she said. Let's be honest for once. He laughed. Public again. Babe, you're emotional. It's adorable. She blinked as if the word had thrown dust. Stop calling me that. Coral Dress moved 2 steps closer, a quiet ally. Cora hovered behind a pillar with a teacher's patience and a fox's eyes. Mason had the car key and the quality of stillness people hire when they don't know what else to buy. Back corridor, Sylvie said, appearing like good triage now. She split the crowd with a clipboard and a tone that coordinates evacuations. We followed her through a door that swallowed the music and spit us into a hallway that smelled like ice and glue. In the service corridor, sounds arrived truer. The clack of a pan, the tap of a shoe, the sentence that doesn't care if anyone likes it. Sylvie claimed a corner near a cart of linens. She drew a small circle on the ground with her eyes. A theater with no balcony. All right, she said. Say the necessary truths here. Then we go back to the party. We do not bring the party back with us. Gavin tugged Norah's hand free. She let it go like it was no longer merchandise. We're fine, he told Sylvie, then turned to me. Ruth's making this about herself. That's her sport. You're making it about optics, Norah said, steady and low. That's yours. He smiled at her like a salesman who hates being called one. We're a team. Teams decide strategy. You can't let every heckler. Mom isn't a heckler, she said. He rolled his eyes just enough for a camera to catch had there been one. Okay. She's a condition with a wallet. I didn't move. She's a person, I said. He faced me fully. And you're a test. Fine. Here's my grade. He leaned toward Norah, but pitched his voice so we all could hear. I'm sorry your mother is fragile. It's not her fault. She's older. Try again, Sylvie said, as if correcting posture. To her, not about her. His jaw worked. He looked at the ceiling like men do when humility makes them dizzy. I'm sorry about earlier, he said, generic enough to fit anywhere. Try again, Sylvie repeated, comma. The words must be nouns. Norah folded her arms, the dress creasing at her ribs like a seam that knew better. You called my mother a beggar, she said. On and off mic. You told security to move her. You asked Sylvie to print a lie. You liked the part where people watched. That's the truth. So either tell a different truth now or I can't marry you. The corridor didn't widen or narrow. The oxygen did both. Somewhere on the far side of the wall, a cork popped like punctuation. Gavin stared at her as if she'd switched languages. You're going to blow this up over pride? Over respect, she said. Same thing, he said. Different prices, I murmured. He wheeled. And you? You with your checks and your theater. You think they're clapping for your integrity? They're clapping because you made a show out of a number. I made a rule, I said. The number was your confetti. He laughed, but his laugh had a crack in it. Now you want a show? Fine. He pulled his phone out, thumbed to a video, and shoved it toward Sylvie. Look, she was grandstanding. She loves the lens. Play it, Sylvie said, taking the phone. The screen showed the ballroom 3 minutes ago from balcony right. My voice at the mic. I'm here to sit, to bless, and to be quiet when quiet is kindness. No flourish, no swell of strings, just a sentence trying to hold its own weight. She scrubbed back 10 seconds. The laminated card in Gavin's hand, beggar not allowed. His careful lift so the closest cameras could catch it before he surrendered it to her. She glanced up once, pulse steady, judgment busy. Not helpful to your argument, she said, and slid the phone back. Cora coughed delicately. My turn, she said, producing a clip from a guest she'd charmed in the hour of small hors d'oeuvres. In the video, Gavin leaned toward a security lead near the podium, voice low but captured. If she won't move, move her. Side aisle. Make it look gentle. Norah closed her eyes. When she opened them, they were older by a week. Congratulations, Gavin, she said, spiking sarcasm. You have media. You feel righteous. You going to post it, babe? You going to go viral for morality? No, she said. I'm going to listen to myself. He smirked. Since when? Since I heard me say my mother sits in family row. She looked at me then, and something unknotted in my chest I hadn't realized had begun as a knot when she was born. Here's where we land, I said, not raising my voice, not driving it into the wall. I rescind the 10 million permanently. I watched his eyes flick to my clutch as if the torn corner might hop out and reattach itself if he glared hard enough. It isn't punishment. It's clarity. That number was a false god and it ate the oxygen. I won't put it on the altar again. His jaw fired a small tremor. There it is. Control. No, I said. Boundary. I turned to Norah. I'm offering something smaller and harder. A starter fund. Private. Modest. Unannounced. If you apologize in public for the harm you let happen, and if you choose decency when it costs you, not to impress me, to repair what you knocked over when you tried to carry something the wrong way. Her throat moved. How modest, she said on reflex. Then she shook her head. No, don't tell me. That's the trap. Exactly, I said. Gavin laughed. Brittle. So she buys your remorse. Classic Ruth. Stop spending other people's motives, Cora said, mild as a librarian and twice as sharp. You're over limit. He ignored her. You apologize, he told Norah. You look weak. People don't respect weakness. That's your truth, she said. It isn't mine. He flung an arm toward the ballroom theatrically, even with no audience. Norah, we are halfway through a wedding. Families, vendors, schedules, invoices. This is a train. You can't yank the cord and call it virtue. You yanked the cord when you put your hand on security, Sylvie said, tired of being timekeeper for men who dislike clocks. Now you get to fix it or wear it. He looked between us. The clipboard judge, the mother with her quiet clauses, the teacher friend who kept producing inconvenient evidence, the daughter whose eyes had found their depth. Fine, he said at last, jaw tight. I'll say something. To her, Sylvie said. He turned to Norah and gathered a version of himself that he could sell. I'm sorry, he said. I'm sorry I called your mother a name. I'm sorry I tried to move her. I was protecting you from drama. The word failed him halfway through. His mouth disliked the flavor of admission. And? She asked. He tried to smile. And I was wrong. It landed like a penny. Honest enough to be money, but too light to buy anything. Norah looked to me as if I were a weather vane she'd stopped ignoring. I shook my head gently. It's not my apology to take, I said. She nodded, then turned back. You're not sorry you hurt her, she said. You're sorry you got recorded. You're sorry the room didn't clap. He spread his hands, empty as a trick. What will make you happy? I don't want to be happy, she said. I want to be decent. Silence. Then Sylvie, brisk again because the timeline still exists. We have 2 minutes before toast call. Decide. Public apology now at the mic, or this moves back into the room with no correction and the rumor finishes the story. Gavin looked at the wall like it might offer a cheaper option. It should be me, Norah said. I let it happen. I like the theater too. The admission hurt something in me and healed something else. You don't have to bleed in front of strangers, I said. I know, she said. That's why it counts. Cora's hand touched my sleeve once. Permission, pride. Mason checked his watch without making a production of time. Then we do it clean, Sylvie said, already walking us back. 9 sentences. Names correct. No numbers, no blame under a white cloth. We reached the threshold where corridor becomes ballroom. The sound swelled. Laughter, silverware, a DJ warming his voice. Sylvie caught the MC's eye. The MC nodded like a man who has MC'd storms. Gavin grabbed Norah's wrist again. Last reflex of a habit that had outlived its justification. She pulled free. Not a performance. A decision. Norah, think, he pleaded. Softer now, almost human. Once it's out there, we can't pull it back. She looked at him the way people look at a store window they finally realized is a mirror. That's the point. She stepped up to the edge of the dance floor. The mic waited in its small stand like a pen cap. The nearest table stilled with the expectation people save for either cake or conflict. I felt my hand find the clutch where the torn corner slept. It didn't comfort me. It didn't need to. It just stayed there like a receipt you keep to remind yourself of the return policy on your pride. Sylvie lifted a finger to the DJ. The music thinned to a hush. The lights warmed. Cameras relearned how to rise. Norah took one breath, then another, and turned toward the mic. Norah steadied the mic with both hands as if it were a doorknob to a room she finally wanted to enter. Good evening, she said. The room answered by becoming one. I need to say something I should have said earlier. She glanced toward the landing, then to me, then down at her own shoes like they'd be kinder than faces. I let someone talk about my mother like she was less than family. I let it happen where people could hear. I'm sorry, Mom. That was wrong. No theatrics, no tears for rent. A clean sentence with a cost. And to everyone here, she went on, I asked our coordinator to fix the seating when the fix was my courage. That was wrong too. Thank you, Sylvie, for doing your job better than we did ours. Sylvie gave half a nod. The medical kind. Then studied a point in the middle distance so the apology could be alone with itself. I want to be decent more than I want to be impressive, Norah said. So this is me choosing decency. Please give my mother the same respect you give me. We can argue about flowers later. Laughter, real, relieved, broke like small weather. A few people clapped. Not many. Enough. She stepped back. Not a retreat. A placement. She left space next to the mic without offering it. The room, intoxicated by narrative, looked at Gavin. He smiled for the lens he keeps in his head. What a brave woman, he said, joining her. What a night. He put an arm around her shoulders that belonged in a different story. Take your hand off me, she said. Calm. Unembarrassed. Look at me. Not them. The DJ killed a beat mid-bloom. Forks forgot their choreography. On the edge of the floor, the coral dress woman leaned forward like a spectator at honest sport. Gavin's smile twitched. Okay, he said, hands lifted. Palms out like you do when you're pretending surrender until the cameras look away. Okay, I apologize. He aimed the word at the room, not at anyone inside it. We got heated. I wanted the day to be perfect. Say the thing you did, Norah said. Softer now, but tighter. Use nouns. He swallowed. I called your mother a beggar. I told security to move her. I tried to make the coordinator print something that wasn't true. He kept his eyes on the far wall, reciting like a student. And, she said, and I'm sorry. It landed without address. To whom? She asked. He tried to smile. It didn't travel. To whoever needs to hear it. To my mother, she said. A muscle fired in his jaw. I'm sorry, Ruth, he said, still not looking. It won't happen again. Make it won't because you wouldn't do it, she said. Not because you got caught. He looked at her then. Really looked, like a man realizes a mirror has depth. He didn't like what he saw. You're humiliating me, he whispered. No, she said. You did that to yourself. Cameras, smelling blood and truth. Rose's father. Sylvie stepped a degree closer to the mic stand, ready to cauterize whatever kind of wound was about to open. Gavin turned to the room, reaching for narrative the way you reach for a rail on a subway when the car lurches. This is a lot, he said with practiced warmth. Emotions, am I right? He laughed. A few people tried to help him out by laughing back. The laugh died on the way. Let's toast, he said, grabbing the stem of a flute like a baton. To love. Not yet, Norah said. His hand tightened on the glass. Then what? Do we keep auditioning for virtue until the cake melts? We start by not lying when it's inconvenient. She lifted the mic to her mouth, but turned her face to me. Mom, will you stand with me a minute? I stood. Not a performance. A posture. She took my hand the way she did in second grade when winter was tall and the curb was higher than her boots. We faced the room together. She spoke into the mic without needing it to hold her up. My mother will bless this marriage if decency lives here. That's the condition. I agree with it. She let go of my hand and set her shoulders. Gavin, can you agree with it too? Out loud. Just that. You could hear a lemon slice fall into a glass at the bar. Gavin could have said yes. It was the cheapest word in English. He could have made a shape of it with his mouth and rented himself another week of face. I saw the math happen behind his eyes. Then I watched the part of him that loves a shortcut more than a road win again. He lifted his flute to the balcony instead. To us, he said. To optics and miracles. Sorry, logistics and love. A polite scatter, a meaner snicker. You can't toast over a sentence like the one Norah had just said. The glass thunked when he set it down, and the sound made other men flinch the way a dropped tool does in a quiet garage. Sylvie stepped in. She took the mic as if removing a small fire from a tablecloth. Dinner is served, she said evenly. Please enjoy the generosity both families have provided. We'll resume with dancing shortly. Lights warmed. Staff moved. The room remembered how to be a room. Conversations sighed across 20 rows. Clatter repopulate the air. Gavin leaned to Norah, whisper polite for optics. That was unnecessary, he said. So was beggar, she replied. Figure it out. He held the smile another second and then let it fall. We'll talk later, he said to the space where she'd been, and then remembered that space had become me. He pivoted to me, grin restored like a cheap app after a crash. Congratulations, he said, too brightly. You won the internet. I don't post, I said. I parent. He breathed through his nose, nostrils flaring like a man smelling his own story burning. Then he turned and walked toward the vendor corridor as if it were a victory lap. The sharp suits followed, trained to protect a man from a crowd, even when the crowd is looking away. Cora appeared with a plate and 2 forks the moment the air was survivable. Small persuasive salmon, she said, putting it in my hands unasked. Eat before the next moral choice. Thank you, I said. What do you see? 2 people learning different lessons at different speeds, she said. One will finish tonight. Which? I asked. She tipped her chin toward Norah, now speaking quietly with Sylvie near the podium. The one making sentences with nouns. Mason materialized at my shoulder like an oath fulfilled. I reparked where your exit is dignified, he murmured. No rush, just options. Keep them open, I said. He nodded and disappeared into architecture. He's a man who knows where walls end and doors begin. Norah broke away from Sylvie and came to me. It felt good, she said, surprise on her face like a new haircut. Telling the truth, even with the room listening. It always does, I said. Until it doesn't, then it matters even more. She smiled with the small, ferocious version of her mouth I've trusted since she was 3. I have to go talk to his mother, she said. She's going to try to sell me calm. Ask to see the receipt, I said. She laughed, brief and real, then went. A waiter approached with a tray. "Champagne, ma'am." "Ginger ale," I said, in a champagne glass. I promised not to embarrass the flute. He smiled and made it so. I took one sip and let the sweetness remind me not every ceremony has to be an argument with sugar. Through the next hour, the party tried to resurrect itself. People danced dutifully, then for themselves. Someone's uncle did a thing with his knees. A child in shiny shoes slid past like a curling stone. Life, stubborn, kept insisting. Gavin did not return to the mic. He circulated in widening loops, his smile shearing into smaller and smaller pieces until it couldn't cover his teeth. At one point, he stopped by our table and put his hands on the back of a chair that wasn't his, like a man reminding furniture who pays rent. He moved on when the chair failed to clap. When it was time for the mother-daughter dance, Norah walked to me and held out her hand as if the song were a tool, not a sentence. "1 minute, then I have calls to make," she said, and the mischief in her voice salvaged the part of the evening that wasn't theater. We swayed like people who don't practice and don't need to. "What calls?" I asked. "To a florist," she said. "To cancel what we can't afford to need." "Who's normal?" I said, and she smiled into my shoulder where small smiles go to catch their breath. When the song ended, we didn't bow. We returned the floor to the children and the uncles. It looked better there. Later, I found Sylvie stowing a binder with the reverence some people reserve for Bibles. "Thank you," I said. "For what?" she asked. "For seating me from the front," I said. "For a corridor that tells the truth." She allowed herself the ghost of a smile. "I like rooms that behave," she said. Tonight tried to be one. I slipped a folded piece of paper toward her. Artifact number 1. The valet stub. Now signed with my name and a small note. "When paper protects people, thank the person who carries the clipboard." She read it and tucked it into her binder like a pressed leaf. "We'll get you to the car clean," she said. "I'll walk," I said. "I'm not fleeing." "Good," she said. "Leave like you belong." I did. Mason appeared at the threshold without being called, and the car slid forward the way well-made things do when asked politely. The night air had cooled into the sort of honesty you only get after a room has finished being a room. Norah caught me by the door. "I meant what I said," she whispered, quick because we both hate long goodbyes in public. "Decency. I'm choosing it. Not for the money. For oxygen." "I know," I said. I reached into my clutch and pressed the torn corner there, a small paper tooth that reminded me what I'd promised. "Inward, not outward. Call me tomorrow." "I will," she said. "Early." She squeezed my hand. "No cameras asked for it." "Good. Not everything needs to be a receipt." "Ruth," a voice said behind us. Gavin again, empty glass in his hand, full habit in his mouth. "We should talk numbers when the dust settles." "No," I said. "We should talk boundaries. The numbers will either follow or they won't." He smirked, but his eyes were learning fear from a new teacher. "You think you're the weather?" "I think I brought an umbrella," I said and stepped into the night. Mason opened the door. I sat, not as a woman escaping, but as a woman making a complete sentence. The car moved, patient and precise, past the front loop where people who love pictures posed under a white arch that promises what no arch can guarantee. "Home?" Mason asked. "Not yet," I said. "1 lap around the block, then the long way. Let the day finish without me." We rolled. The jewelry on my wrist kept time without apologizing. The dress held its line. The valet stub lay in my clutch like a vow that had done its job and could rest. At a red light, I pulled a square of linen from my bag, the handkerchief the stylist tucked in without charging. Old school courtesy. I unfolded it. The cloth was clean and ordinary. I thought of the napkin I folded the night I was told to stay home, white under a glass I didn't drink. I held the handkerchief a moment, then folded it once, twice, until it sat small in my palm. "A thing you keep," not wave. Nice night, Mason said, eyes on the road. It is, I said, because the weather changed. We took the long way. Quiet streets that like their own shadows. At home, the porch light made its square of theater on the steps. No audience necessary. Inside, the house smelled like lemon oil and old paper, because houses that tell the truth always do. In the basement, I set the portfolio on the workbench and opened the safe. The dial clicked its old clicks, unhurried. I placed the trust draft inside, missing its corner, and set the torn piece beside it. Separate, on purpose. Boundaries. Then I closed the door and spun the dial, not to seal wealth, but to finish a sentence. Upstairs, my phone buzzed once. A message from Cara, proud of both of you. Go drink water. Sleep. Another from Sylvie, surprisingly. Thank you for using nouns. And finally, one from Norah that said only, tomorrow. 9 o'clock. Coffee. The time landed with the authority of a rule you like. I typed, I'll be early, and set the phone face down. The handkerchief sat on the table, folded neat. I put it in my jacket pocket where a keepsake might live and let it be what it was, a clean thing you carry after a messy day. Then I turned off lights in the usual order. The house exhaled. The pilot light inside me kept its small, steady flame.